Hey guys, welcome back to Project Bodybuilding. I'm starting yet another new series on this channel. This one is going to be all about one athlete per comparison. You may say, well, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because we're looking at the progress of an individual athlete. This series will be all about seeing where an athlete has improved, or in some cases, where they've regressed. So I think a fitting name to call this series is Progress Report. On the first episode of Progress Report, we will be taking a look at a classic physique athlete. A classic athlete who just pulled off the biggest upset probably ever in the entire division history. You read the title, we all know that today's video will be about Wesley Vissers' progress. Think of this as kind of like a before and after. For the after pics, we will be using the 2024 Arnold Classic version, which is his current highest placing and is widely regarded as his best ever. But for the before side of things, I went back half a decade to the 2019 Arnold Classic. Wesley has only competed at the Arnold twice. He won this year, obviously, but back in 2019, he was all the way down in 10th. I remember back in 2019, he had a big following even at that time. He had won the Mr. Golden Era competition, an online competition put on by Nick Strength and Power, but he showed up to the Arnold and placed a disappointing 10th. And this caused a lot of controversy. I remember Tominator doing a video on this, I remember Nick Strength and Power doing a couple of videos on this, and he also put out a backstage interview with Wesley. And I remember both of them were just so dumbfounded at this decision. Unfortunately for Wesley, this would be an ongoing theme for a while. He would continue to get shafted by the judges for a long time. But I think he finally turned the corner in 2022 where he placed 8th at the Olympia. At this point, he had made a ton of improvements and continued to improve even more, and then landed in 7th at the 2023 Olympia, and he also won 2 shows that year. And now he's gotten so undeniable that he beat the number 4, 3, and 2 in the world, winning the 2024 Arnold Classic. So from 10th to 1st, let's break down Wesley's incredible transformation from robbed to champion. If you guys like this video and want to see more, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And let me know who I should do a progress report for next. So I don't have all the mandatories for this comparison, but since this is not a regular comparison, let's use different poses anyway. We can start with one of Wesley's signature poses, the Mantis Pose. This of course is a pose he's borrowing from Arnold, and since Wesley is so much like Arnold, he's terrific in this pose. He always was, even back in 2019. This is largely because of the arms, particularly those thick biceps. I honestly don't see much change in the arms between the years, but that's a good thing. He finally grew into his great arms, balancing out his physique. The side leg definitely grew though, and his conditioning is night and day. We can't see the glutes in 2019 because that's when Classic used the old posing chunks, but we can see that Wesley is much drier as a whole and actually started bringing strided glutes in 2024. And we'll get to this part soon, but look at that lat even in this pose. Look how much thickness Wesley added to his back, so much so that we can see insane progress even from the side angle, but more on that later. Finally, in terms of execution, I definitely prefer 2024. He was really leaning into the old school way of doing things in 2019, standing very tall and not twisting to the side so much. Now he's squatting down just a little bit more, showing off more of the side leg. He's twisting his body more, showcasing his chest, and that also shows the full arm, not just the bicep but the tricep too, more effectively. This pose is really one that's improved on all fronts. Unfortunately, this was the only photo I can find of Wesley's front double from 2019. It's obviously very blurry, but we can still see Wesley's massive improvements. And I still wanted to include this pose because it really encapsulates Wesley's entire transformation from the front. In terms of added size, there is at least a little everywhere besides the waist. I think the lats and arms were minorly improved, but the arms were already spectacular, and his lats kind of were too, but they were really high. Still though, they were fairly wide even back in 2019, they just have never offered much taper. But honestly, I think he somehow brought his waist down too, but it could be the illusion he creates with the slightly wider lats and the bigger quads. I actually think the biggest difference in Wesley is in those quads. This was Wesley's most critiqued muscle group from the front. He was always told that those quads need to come up and be wider. Well, I think we can clearly see that the overall mass and sweep transformation is very noticeable. In the whole 5-year period, I think the quads were the most improved body part, at least from the front. But honestly, one of the most improved things on Wesley is the overall conditioning. People critique some of his body parts, sure, but his conditioning got knocked a lot in his early days. His skin is so much thinner and he's overall more peeled at the 2024 Arnold Classic. Like I said, this pose perfectly encapsulates Wesley's entire transformation from the front. The legs, the lats, and the waist are all better, making his proportions a bit better. The arms, although already terrific, are now even better, and his conditioning from the front is now top notch. Now we're going to what probably was Wesley's worst pose, the rear double. The only thing I like about the 2019 version more is the execution in the legs. I'm not a fan of how Wesley holds his legs in this pose now. I think he should change that up ASAP because it makes his legs look small. But other than that, we have another night and day transformation here. The arms and delts are already really good, but now the delts are bigger and have more of that splintering look since Wesley has better conditioning. And Wesley's bicep peaks are peaking more too. In the back, Wesley's upper back was okay. That was his best area of the back, but it was still pretty shallow. Fast forward to 2024 and his back is much much more detailed. The traps, rhomboids, teres, everything really is thicker, but combine that with his much better conditioning, and we have a lot more detail poking through Wesley's 2024 back double. Now his back is also really wide, and the added width is crazy. It's literally like he changed his lat insertions. The lower body is also much sharper for what it's worth, but please Wesley, if you're watching this, change whatever that foot stance is because you're doing yourself a disservice. Overall, this was Wesley's weakest pose. His back was more narrow and more shallow. Now he's multiplied the width by at least 1.5, and finally he's bringing some good details. I would say this is no longer a weak pose. Maybe not the best for your double, but certainly a solid one. The side chest, like for Arnold, was always a great pose for Wesley. In the upper body, he was spot on even back then. His upper body conditioning was still okay back then, and he had good mass in the arm and delt, and in the pecs especially. But he fell off in the lower body in both size and condition. Now, Wesley is much more balanced. The side leg is much bigger, there's more hamstring drop for sure, and more quad height. And the conditioning is next level in 2024. The leg in 2019 is smooth outside of one line between quad and ham. Now he has glute striations and so much more graininess in his leg. In the upper body, I don't notice as much change. This still went up from like a B+ upper body to at least an A upper body though. And if I'm being completely honest, the only side chest in the classic division that I see as the same level as Wesley's is Chris Bumstead's. Now I do think Chris is better, but that's another topic for another day. But seriously, this was already a crazy pose for Wesley, but now he's gotten bigger overall and balanced his physique out. And besides one other guy, I don't think anyone in this entire division beats Wesley in this pose. Let's end off with the front lat spread. Not a mandatory, but Wesley loves doing it. This is kind of like what we saw on the front double. Bigger legs, the difference is crazy. The overall polish is much improved too. Look at all the striations in the chest, the separation of the abs even in the vacuum, and the cuts in the legs and so on. Really, everywhere you look has more detail in 2024. Now in the lats, he doesn't look super improved, but that's down to execution. He's kind of rolling his shoulders forward in 2024, which hides a little bit of his lats. But come on guys, we know by now that there's no way he has not improved those lats. Even with him looking a little less wide through the shoulders because of his execution, he still brought his waist down, which equals better proportions overall, despite the execution. I hope he tries his older execution again soon because I prefer that execution, and I think with his improvements, he can make this pose even better for himself. But overall, just glancing at this pose, we can see how much Wesley has improved. This could be on quality alone, but he has better quality to his physique as well as improvements in every single body part. Overall, I think this was pretty inspiring to look at. Wesley has made such a great transformation and has beaten all odds. The judges didn't like him for a while, and they probably still don't to be honest, but Wesley has done so much to improve that he has cemented himself as one of the best in the world. At the 2019 Arnold, although there was some controversy with how low he ended up placing, I can tell you right now he was never going to win that show. Should he have placed higher? Certainly. At that point, the judges were hating on him as per usual, but they also had valid criticism too. He had a poor back, lackluster legs, and his conditioning was not even close to where it should have been. By the 2024 Arnold, he had filled in the gaps, figured out his conditioning, and he was undeniable. It's honestly a great story, and it isn't finished yet. Wesley has now beaten everyone in the world besides Chris Bumstead. It's going to be very interesting to see probably an even more improved Wesley next to Chris, and probably an even better Ramon Dino. This has definitely added a lot more excitement into the division, and I'm definitely more excited for Classic now than I was before the Arnold. Anyway, I want to give one more congrats to Wesley on his Arnold Classic victory, and I want to give him props for his incredible transformation. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys like this new series of videos, be sure to hit that like button and tell me who I should do a progress report on next. I'm thinking Hadi Chupin, but let me know what you guys are thinking. By the way, if you guys are looking for any high quality supplements, the ones I use personally, be sure to head over to Arms Race Nutrition. Then at checkout, be sure to use my code Project10 to get 10% off your entire order. That's code Project10 at armsracenutrition.com. Finally, with all that said, I want to thank you all for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more, and I will see you all in the next video.
Gotta get that Lexia.